At my sister's graduation, I felt utterly humiliated by my own parents. They mocked me publicly, calling me a mistake in comparison to my flawless sister, and I responded in a way that left them stunned. The event was meant to celebrate my older sister, Clara, who had just graduated from college and landed an impressive job. I expected my parents to deliver a heartfelt speech in her honor, praising her hard work and achievements. Clara deserved every bit of recognition for her efforts, but when my parents took the stage, their words took a devastating turn. They began by lauding Clara as their greatest blessing, which didn't surprise me. I had long accepted that my parents cherished her more than me. Clara was always the shining star, the daughter they held up as perfect, while I was constantly measured against her and found lacking. Then, in their speech, they made a cruel joke, saying they should have stopped having kids after Clara because second children are often a burden. They claimed that without me, they could have devoted all their time and resources to her. Hearing those words, spoken so casually in front of everyone, left me frozen. I scanned the room, hoping someone would recognize the cruelty of their remarks, but all I saw were relatives chuckling as if my humiliation was just harmless fun. My parents had always made me feel inferior, but this was the first time they'd done it so openly, in front of our extended family and friends. Their words confirmed what I'd long suspected. In their eyes, I was a shadow compared to their radiant Clara. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment, it was a public declaration of their lifelong favoritism. Growing up as the younger sibling, I was used to their subtle preference for Clara. It showed in their words, their actions, and even their daily routines. They often forgot my birthday, sometimes leaving me alone while they were away on business trips. But Clara's special days? They never missed those. Every year, they threw lavish celebrations, ensuring she felt treasured. Watching them shower her with affection taught me early on to lower my expectations and accept that I wasn't a priority. As a spirited child, I was often labeled difficult or troublesome simply for being myself. My parents criticized me for being too talkative or opinionated, punishing me for not fitting their ideal of a quiet, composed child. Clara's reserved nature, on the other hand, was always praised. She was the model daughter, polite, poised, and perfect in their eyes. Over time, I faced constant criticism. I tried to mold myself into the image they seemed to want, hoping that if I worked harder or achieved more, they'd see me differently. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't become Clara. We were different people, and I eventually stopped trying to emulate her. Their endless praise for her accomplishments while dismissing mine cut deeply. Those moments of rejection had always stayed within the family, until that graduation speech, when they aired their disdain for me in front of everyone. What hurt even more was that no one in the audience seemed to care. No one spoke up or even offered me a sympathetic glance as my parents mocked me. As they continued their speech, gushing over Clara's achievements, they announced they'd bought her a brand new car as a graduation gift, something she'd always dreamed of owning. The room erupted in applause and cheers as Clara hugged them, beaming with gratitude. The three of them stood there, basking in their shared joy, while I felt like an outsider in my own family. The truth is, I've never been jealous of Clara. We got along well enough, and I genuinely believed she deserved her successes. But that speech shattered me. For years, I'd quietly endured their favoritism, their cutting remarks, and their neglect. I'd convinced myself that staying strong and composed would somehow make things better. But that night, after their public humiliation, I reached my breaking point. I was done swallowing their insults and pretending they didn't hurt. So I decided to confront them. I hoped they'd finally see the pain they'd caused and acknowledge the shame I felt. I wanted them to regret their words, to show they cared enough to listen. When I spoke to them, their response was cold and dismissive. Instead of apologizing, they accused me of overreacting, brushing off years of neglect as if it were nothing. My father even said he had no reason to be proud of me, as if my existence was a disappointment. My mother told me to stop being so sensitive, claiming I was making a big deal out of a trivial matter. It was as if I didn't deserve their respect simply because I wasn't Clara. Even when I brought it up with Clara, she defended them, saying their speech was just a lighthearted joke. She told me that if I'd worked as hard as she had, I could have made them proud too. Her words stung deeply, implying my efforts were invisible and my struggles meaningless. I'd always hoped she'd have my back, but instead, she sided with them. That felt like a betrayal. That conversation was a turning point. I was done chasing their approval, done explaining myself, done hoping for love they'd never give. I threw myself into my studies, focusing on what I could control and building a future for myself. 2 years later, my hard work paid off when I earned a full scholarship to my dream university. It was a deeply personal victory, achieved through my own grit and determination, not their support. When I shared the news, they were stunned, as if they'd never believed I could succeed. Clara even double-checked my acceptance letter, as if she doubted my ability. Their shock was satisfying, but my mother's comment soured the moment. She said it was fortunate I'd gotten a scholarship because they hadn't saved any money for my education, though they'd happily paid for Clara's tuition. When it was time to leave for college, I packed my things and moved out without looking back. I cut off all contact with my parents and Clara, feeling no need to justify my decision. They'd shown time and again that my feelings didn't matter to them. Why should I waste energy explaining myself to people who refused to listen? They reached out repeatedly in the weeks and months that followed, sending messages and emails. At first, I was tempted to read them, hoping they'd finally own up to their actions. But each message was a reminder of their true nature, blaming me, calling my decision to cut contact immature, as if I were the one tearing the family apart. I never responded. College has been a refreshing chapter. I've poured my energy into my studies, my passions, and building relationships with people who value me for who I am. Working part-time at a local cafe has helped me save for the future and introduced me to fascinating people with their own stories. I've embraced my new life, and I haven't missed my family or wondered about them once. Then, yesterday, an unexpected email from my parents arrived. They'd stopped reaching out long ago when I ignored their messages, so this caught me off guard. They urged me to call them immediately, saying they had bad news. Despite everything, my heart raced with worry. What if someone was seriously ill or had passed away? Even after years of hurt, I couldn't shake the fear that something terrible had happened. I unblocked their number, called them, and braced myself. They revealed that Clara was struggling with a severe drug addiction that had derailed her life. She'd lost her job, burned through her savings, and was now in a desperate state. The news floored me. Clara, the dependable, high-achieving sister, caught in something so destructive? It was hard to process. What shocked me even more was my parents' reaction. They were less concerned about her well-being and more obsessed with how her addiction would tarnish their reputation if it got out. They even asked, in a suspicious tone, if I'd introduced her to drugs. The accusation was absurd and offensive. I've never used drugs, and I hadn't spoken to Clara in years. Yet, in their desperation to preserve their image of Clara, they pointed fingers at me, the easiest scapegoat. I told them to talk to Clara before jumping to conclusions and called their suspicion reckless. Throughout the call, their focus remained on the potential shame her addiction would bring, not on helping her. My mother fixated on how shocking it was that her perfect daughter had a hidden struggle, worrying about what others would think. They begged me to come home and help care for Clara, as if I could somehow fix her. My mother pleaded, "What do we even do? I'm so embarrassed by her." My father rejected the idea of professional treatment, insisting it would ruin their family's reputation. He wanted me to return home, keep Clara under watch, and pretend everything was fine to maintain appearances. I was furious. Their obsession with their image over Clara's health was infuriating. This was their chance to prioritize their daughter's well-being. But they were still the same self-absorbed people. They were trying to pull me back into their toxic dynamic, expecting me to prop up their facade while they ignored Clara's real needs. I told them I needed time to think. I couldn't just drop my classes and job to rush home. They insisted I'd take a few weeks off to help, claiming they desperately needed me. I'm torn. Part of me wants to check on Clara and make sure she's okay, but another part feels it's not my responsibility to clean up the mess of their perfect daughter. They're more focused on appearances than addressing her addiction, and I doubt I can help when their priorities are so skewed. Should I refuse to go home and let them handle Clara's crisis alone? I didn't expect this story to resonate so widely, and I'm still processing the hundreds of comments I've received. To clarify, I don't hate Clara. I care about her and want to help, but cutting contact with my family brought me a peace I never had before. I'm wary that reconnecting with Clara might reopen the door to my parents' toxicity. I'm not certain what to do. It's possible Clara's addiction started years ago, maybe even before my parents noticed. As the golden child, she was under immense pressure to uphold that perfect image. That kind of pedestal can make any misstep feel catastrophic. If Clara tied her worth to her achievements and others' perceptions, drugs might have become a way to escape that burden. It breaks my heart to think she was suffering silently. I wish she'd felt safe confiding in me sooner. I would have been there for her. Our parents' high expectations shaped both our lives, and I need time to process this. I'll update if anything changes. After much reflection and encouragement from comments, I reached out to Clara. She's my sister, and I felt it was important to hear her side directly, not filtered through my parents' lens. I sent her a brief text asking if she wanted to talk. She replied hours later, agreeing to a phone call. When we spoke, her voice was a faint echo of the sister I knew, soft, heavy, and guarded. Clara opened up about her addiction, which started shortly after college when she joined a law firm. The pressure to maintain her perfect image, outshine her colleagues, and meet everyone's expectations burned her out. A friend suggested recreational drugs to cope, and what began as occasional use spiraled into dependency. She felt trapped, unable to tell our parents because she knew they'd prioritize their reputation over her pain. She kept up the facade, pretending everything was fine, until she lost her job and savings. Clara worried I'd judge her as harshly as she judged herself, and she was ashamed to share this with me. Hearing her story broke my heart. I never realized the pedestal our parents placed her on was a cage, not a privilege. While I struggled with being overlooked, she carried the crushing weight of their expectations. Their obsession with control and appearances hurt us both in different ways. I told her I wasn't judging her and wished she'd reached out sooner. I regret not being there for her when she needed me most. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories. Get more experiences.